Hello and welcome. My name is Oliver Lim, and I'll be your presenter today for the webinar. Today's topic is 3D bevel improvements in version 20 and version 21. I've sectioned out the webinar into 4 main topics, so the first thing I'll go over is Rule Manager and modifying transitions and leads in the new format. Then I'll cover bevel tabbing and how this has changed, single pierce countersinks, and finish off with ramping rules. The 3D bevel interface makes a big shift towards 3D interactive modifications. For those of you familiar with beveling in 2D, the process to modify a corner loop was to first clear it, go into the bevel tech table and find exactly where the entry for the thickness and angle is, change it to the desired type, then NC it again. And I know from experience that this could be a really back and forth process with a lot of clicks. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the software, give a rundown of how this all works. Some of you might already be familiar with the new Rule Manager, but no worries if not. We'll do a quick recap. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and choose this part here. So the first thing I want to show you is this Rule Manager here. So I'm in part mode right now. Now the first thing we're going to see are 3 sections: lead rules, transition rules, and ramping rules. I just want to explain how this all works here. So for transitions, notice I've got 3 entries, and all of them have certain types of entries. So this one's going to be a triangle type of loop, and the next one is no corner loop, and the last one is a triangle open corner loop. Now, the reason why there are 3 entries is because each of these have specific requirements for what happens in order for them to pop up. So first, let's take a look at this one right here. So if I click on this pencil icon, it opens up, and notice I don't have any rules on this one. So this is essentially saying I don't need to filter out for anything, and it's going to apply this triangle type of loop. And notice when I click on this pencil icon again, it brings up this window here. And it's basically going to show me exactly how that loop looks like. So notice this has got 5 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And over here it's got entries, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as well. So for the first one, it's got a line, and that's actually where the tilt is going to happen. And then these other ones here are connectors. So the middle one there would be this one, and notice how it says connector. And if I scroll over to the right, you see how it says allow tilt. That's going to be added to the first and last line. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK here. And let's move over to this one here. It says no corner loop. So I want to see what requirement I have in order for that to pop up. So within this window, it says first edge cut equals top knife, and second edge cut equals top knife as well. So really what this means is in order for this type of corner loop, which is no corner loop, to happen, it needs to have a top knife transitioning to a top knife. Notice how there's even a third filter here. So it says material equals mild steel on top of it all. So really I could get as complicated as I want or detailed as I want by adding more and more filters. So now that I have this third one, it's saying not only does it have to be a top knife to a top knife, this needs to be mild steel in order for this no corner loop to pop up. So let's take a look at how this looks like. And as expected, this doesn't have anything inside the window. So notice it's just a line and then a line. So there's no sort of a corner loop transition. I'm going to hit OK there. Hit OK one more time. And finally, this last one here, I just created this recently. I'm going to remove this and just show you guys how to create one just to start from scratch. So what I wanted to do was create a triangle corner loop, except the connector is going to be a rapid. So it's just going to be an open corner loop essentially. So I'm going to click this copy because I want to just use what I already have there. So I'm just going to name this open. And this one doesn't have anything defined yet. But let me show you what I can do here. So notice how I already had that open thing set up here. So let's just take a look at exactly what an open looks like. So you see it's got the first two lines just like the other corner loop that I have, except in the middle, you see how it says rapid instead of lead like the other ones. So it's going to do these first two lines, then it's just going to rapid from here to here, and then it's going to cut those. So I'm going to hit OK. All right. And for this one, I'm going to explain what this priority does. So I'm going to set this to 2 first. So essentially, because both of these are priority 2, they receive an equal amount of attention when it gets to a corner. So both of these are going to be behind this one on the top here. You see how it's got priority 1, and it says the triangle type. So essentially what I'm saying is I first wanted to use that triangle type wherever it can. And these two guys on the bottom, they get second priority. So now that I've set up all these rules for these transitions here, let's go ahead and hit OK. And let's go on to the next step, which is actually adding the NC and just seeing how we can modify those. So I'm going to hit OK here, and notice it takes me to this window. So now what I could do is click this again here, hit OK one more time, and notice how, remember I had that priority 1 corner loop set, so now it's using that for all these loops. So anytime it sees a transition, essentially a corner here, it's going to use that. Now, what I want to show you is, going back to our conversation about how it used to be in SigmaNEST to add these and remove them and change it to a different one to what it is now. So, say I wanted to change this to, no corner loop. So what I could do is hit Edit Transition, click on this, and remember those rules that I made earlier? They all pop up in this drop-down. So if I click No Corner Loop, notice it's got nothing now. See? So when I go inside here, it's just going to go straight into that next one. Now let's just modify another one of these. So let's go do this one. And for this one, what I want to do is change it to the open type. So let's set it to that. And there you go. Remember how I added that corner loop with the rapid in between? So that's what it's doing there. Oops. Yeah, so that's what it's got there now. And once I'm all done editing all this, I could just hit OK, or done, sorry. But what I want to do is show you how you could add lead-ins or override these on top of that. So same within this window, you would click this and you would hit Edit Leads. You click this, and notice this has got 2 lines connected to each other. So essentially this is the lead-in, and the line attached to that is just a line length. So say I wanted to change this lead-in line to be a little bit longer because that's where this tilting is about to happen. So let me change that to a quarter, and notice how it just dynamically lengthens. So that's good. That's what I want. All right, there we go. You see how it extended there? So that's how easy it is to just, within this interface, go and modify corner loops, lead-ins, do whatever you need. And it's really nice and simple. I don't need to clear, I don't need to close out of this window, go to a tech table, etc. It's all just here. All right, so when I'm done with all this, I can hit done there. And it takes me back to the SigmaNEST 2D view, but it still retains everything I did. Remember that open corner loop there? And also this extended lead-in. So this is all retained and it's ready to nest. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next section here. So tabbing with bevels. So for those of you who have beveled with the 2D interface, you'll know that it's quite a process to add a tab to a bevel. So one of the things you'd have to do is break the geometry into segments, then bevel everything except for that segment, which could be a pretty tedious process, especially when you have a lot of parts. So with the new interface, it uses the rule manager to define tab lead-ins. But on top of that, we could use a freeform function where you could click wherever you want and add a tab and it'll appear. It's almost identical in application to manual tabbing inside SigmaNEST 2D. So if you remember in SigmaNEST, all you have to do is just click manual tab, and wherever you move your mouse and click, then the tab applies. That's exactly how it's going to work inside SigmaNEST 3D as well. All right, so I'm going to switch over to SigmaNEST now. And let's go ahead and choose this part here. So this has got two bevels on it, one on this side and one on the top. And the tabs are added the same exact way. So notice how at the bottom here, so I select lead-in rules first, and then I got tab. So the only difference with this one, let's check it out. So this is just saying anywhere where it detects a tab feature, it will apply this lead-in and this lead-out. So let's just see what I added for the lead-in. It's nice and simple. It's just a line, and it's a length of 0.25 with an angle of 90. And let's check out the lead-out now. It should be the exact same thing because I just want a simple lead-out lead-ins. All right, same exact thing. So it's just a line, 1/4 inch, 90 angle. Hit OK there. So nice and simple. All I'm saying is anytime you detect a tab, and this value checkbox just means when it's equal to that, then it's going to tab. So I have this rule set now. Now let's just see it in use. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to do the same thing, hit Auto and C, make sure this 3D Interactive is selected. Okay, now this opens up. Let's add the NC first. Cool. So now that we see where this beveled side is, let's click this button, hit Add Tab. And you see this checkbox at the top here. It says Use Lead Rules. So I'm going to select that. That's essentially saying, whatever we just set up inside that rule manager area, just use those lead-ins. All right, so I just click there. Notice how I'm on free placement. So wherever my mouse is and click, then it's going to pop up right there. I could also set snap to midpoint. Notice how I just took whatever midpoint that is. And same with this. Snap to the closest endpoint. If I do that, then there it is. Another lead-in pops up. So what I'm doing right now is, I'm using that lead-in rule. Remember how I set a straight line in and for the lead out, straight line out. Now, I have the option to turn this off too. So say I don't want to use whatever lead-in rules that I've set earlier. I could just say, use a line lead-in, and I'm just going to make a 0.5 with an angle 90, but I'm not going to have a lead out. So I'm essentially doing, completely manual right now. So let's click here and notice what it did. So it's listening exactly what I did there, leads in, comes all the way around and just stops short in order to create a tab. Cool, so when I'm done, just click this. And same thing, when I'm done with that 3D interface and I'm all done, it takes me back here and it retains everything I did. Notice how it's still there, and this one's ready to go as well. All right, so let's go back to the slides here and on to the next section, which is Countersink Holes. So countersinks, the way to do this in SigmaNEST 2D was first to do a through hole pass. Then once it finishes that, it cuts again for the angled pass. So that's 2 pierces without any option to connect those 2 cuts. Now, what we've added in the 3D interface is the ability to do a flame on in between those 2 passes. This reduces cutting time and also an extra pierce that would possibly cause some slag. And in addition to all this, we can now control whether it's more important to retain the lead out for the first pass or retain the lead in for the second pass, because inevitably, when we're combining 2 passes like this, one of those things has to get removed, right, as a result of merging the 2 cuts. So I'll switch over to SigmaNEST and show you exactly what I mean by that. All right, so let's go ahead and choose this part over here. So this part is it's a part that has just one hole in the middle with a countersink. Now, all I have to do, same process, make sure this is checked here, hit OK. And once I hit Auto NC, this is going to be the option that matters here. So notice it says combine same contour passes. So what I want to do is first show you how this looks like when you preserve lead out for the first pass. So I'm going to hit OK. All right, so let's just see what's going on here. So basically the first pass is this one. So it comes around and does the through hole. And you see when it leads out, you see that J hook of a lead out? That's the one I wanted to retain. So that's the setting I set. Let's see what it looks like. All right, let's go play this. All right, so it's going to cut the through hole. Then it's going to come all the way around, and it should use this hook lead in to come out. And once it does that, you see how it goes straight into the other pass? All with one pierce. So there's no second pierce going on. All right, it's going to come all the way around and finish it off. Cool. So let me show you how this looks with that other checkbox. So let me just clear this, and I'm going to add this other one here. Preserve lead-in for second pass. Let's see how that one looks like. So the second pass is the angled portion, just that large straight line lead-in. That's the one that it's going to retain. And, once it comes out of the first pass, you see the straight line? That is the flame on. So just keeping the flame on and going straight into the second. So let's just simulate that one and see what's going on there. All right, so it cuts this straight cut portion. And it's going to come straight out like that, and you see it goes right into the next one. It's going to come all the way around and finish it off right over there. Yep, and it comes right out. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. And now that I like what it's doing there, I'm just going to hit done again. And SigmaNEST 2D takes care of the outside portion. In the middle is 3D. All right, so let's go on to the next section here, ramping. So the final feature I'd like to show is the ramping control within the rule manager. And this is something that they introduced in 20 SP2. And some of you might already have water jets already set up with ramping. And traditionally, the process to add it was to submit a post mod. So we've simplified this by moving this all within the rule manager. And we can now control how it ramps based on certain angle sizes and even radius sizes too. So let me switch over to SigmaNEST and I'll show you how this is applied. So for this example, I want to use this part here. So it's got a bunch of radius edges, corners, and it's also got a small circle here, a large circle in the middle. And the outside cut is just a bottom knife. Everything is bottom knife on the external, and all these holes on the inside are a top knife. So the same thing applies with ramping. It's all within the same rule manager section. So I'll click on ramping rules here. Now you can see at the top, I have this one option enabled that says ramping rule. Now let's go ahead and see what is going on with this. So I've got one constraint here. It says, when you go from one edge to another and it has a corner, if that angle is less than 180, then apply this ramping rule I meant. And this is the only constraint I have. I'm going to go one further and observe what exactly my ramping rules are. So let's check this out. So I have, it says ramp up step length, meaning those are the increments at which it segments for the ramping. And I've also got a percentage and the inverse on this side. So essentially the percentage up would be 10%, the percentage down would also be 10%, depending on, where it goes on the contour. And on the bottom here, it's got the max arc, meaning anytime there's something larger than this, it's essentially saying it's not worth it to do ramping on that, and you could go the full feed rate with whatever's in the Bevel tech table. So the entry right below that is the minimum entity length. It's just saying it needs to be this long at a minimum, and also the feed rate. Basically, whatever your Bevel tech table feed rate is multiplied by 0.3, that is the absolute minimum for the feed rate. Cool. So now that I have my one rule for ramping, let's see this in action. So I'm going to go back into AutoNC. And I'm going to hit AutoNC here. Okay, now I'm going to apply the ramping. And you see that ramping rule that I just had in my rule manager? It pops up right there. So let's go ahead and see what happens. So I applied this. And this is going to be easier to see with the simulation because you could see the feed rate changing. So I'm going to click the simulation button. And notice on the right here, you see it's got feed rate. You're going to notice that, say if I did not have ramping applied or if I disabled that and I just NC this whole feed rate is going to be constant throughout the whole thing. It's not going to care about, this radius size or these corners or none of that. But for this one, I'm going to play it. You're going to see, you see how it's changing there? It's going to go to this next one. You see this is a large contour, right? So it's going 58.91. That's pretty much what it's got in the feed rate for the tech table. So it's going for the large one, and let's just see what it does for the next contour. Okay, so it's coming here. And notice when it gets to that corner, you see it dropped all the way to 2 when it got there for that small radius. And now this is a large one, so it's not going to care. And yeah, that's pretty much what it's doing, is it's looking at that rule that we set up, and it's working with the tech table to kind of ramp down to what it's set there using those rules. And you can see with these nodes here, that's kind of how it indicates, those the ramping segments. So you'll see it visually as well, and it's easier to see versus, in SigmaNEST, where there will not be an easy way to represent that. So once I'm done, just hit done there, and there we go. So it retained everything that we did, and now this part's ready to go. All right, that concludes it. Thank you for joining, and let us know if you have any questions. And if you want to get 3D bevels set up, if you got a machine that can perform these angles and bevels, just let us know and give us a call. Thank you.